Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We'll just take a couple of moments here before we begin so that more people can join us. But in the meantime, we'd love to know in the comment section where your dream destination is. By that, I mean, what's some place in the world that you've always wanted to visit and you hope to visit at some point in your lifetime? The reason being that today is day three of a series that we've been doing alongside our partners TOEFL called My Dream, My Destination. We've had the opportunity these past couple of weeks to speak with students and faculty who once had a dream and are now actually living it out in schools all across the US. That's not to say that it happened immediately. I mean, confidence doesn't grow overnight. But luckily, today's guest, Jennifer, has a little experience with that and will be sharing how you can find your confidence. Um, but before we can get into that, I wanted to mention that you should stay tuned for the end of the session because we will be providing you with a very helpful promo code for the TOEFL test registration fee. Also, we will be having a Q&A at the end of the session. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and either our guest or one of the TOEFL moderators overseeing the chat will get to answering those as soon as possible. Um, so with all that being said, Jennifer, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Hello, I'm really happy to be here. I'm Jennifer Mena. I'm 19 years old. I was born and raised in Ecuador, a tiny but beautiful country in South America. I will be majoring in bioengineering this fall at UCLA, my dream school, honestly. And I have a passion for biology and technology, like the intersection of both, because I believe it has a potential to help improve the human quality of life. And also, I like dancing, working out, watching science fiction movies and series. I'm a really huge fan of the 100, and I also like reading historical fiction during my free time.
We're really looking forward to learning more about you. And I mean, first of all, congrats on getting accepted into UCLA. That is such a huge deal. So can you give us a little insight into your journey there?
Sure, thank you. I'm also really excited about going to UCLA. I really like this school, especially because it's huge and it attracts a lot of passionate students. So I think that combination of like having a lot of opportunities and people that have a lot of ideas is a good place to be in, and that's mainly the reason why I choose UCLA. And I'm happy that I got accepted. And I have always dreamed about studying abroad. But it wasn't until 11th grade that I realized it was a possibility for me. So I made a presentation to my father, and he decided to support me. So, however, I was kind of late in the process, and because I wanted to preserve the quality of my application, I decided to take a gap year. And honestly, I don't regret it. I had a time to be in a college prep program where I took like different classes on writing, TOEFL preparation, the American culture, and I was able to took the TOEFL twice, which I think helped me a lot in my application process because I was able to get the score that I wanted above 100. But aside from the academics, I also think this gap year helped me a lot for personal growth because I tried working out on my habits and things like going to the gym more consistently or getting involved in courses, reading more, and basically the time that I generally don't have in the year, in the school year. And now next month I will be heading up to UCLA's and majoring in bioengineering. So I'm really happy about that. Although I have to admit I am a little bit nostalgic about leaving my home country.
I love that, and I totally get the nostalgia part. Because, I mean, obviously making this jump to another country was never going to be easy, and it really takes something more from a lot of people. So, what was your motivation to study in the US, and what is it that keeps you waking up every morning to chase after this dream?
That is a deep question. And to be honest, I want to help my home country. Ecuador is categorized as a third world country, and although the case is that it is extremely wealthy, naturally wealthy and diverse, plus it's full of human potential, but we have had like a lot of bad leadership. And since I don't really gravitate towards politics or economics, I intend to help my home country, Ecuador, in the biotechnological advancement for especially for industry and the medical sector. And I'm also super interested in the education and children's rights. My biggest dream is to create a center for the support and protection of children from disadvantaged backgrounds. And this is mainly due to the fact that I was raised by a 17-year-old father, and he had to work incredibly hard to give me the opportunities I have now. So I want to give children in similar circumstances that may not have that support those opportunities.
I think that's a very noble goal that you have, and I think I speak for all of us when we say that we really hope that you're able to accomplish it. Um, so, what gives you the confidence to face the challenges that you come up against?
A strong why always helps. So mainly my deep desire to achieve the goals I just mentioned, and but I think we all have like that evil voice that tells us we are not good enough. But when we let it limit ourselves or dictate our futures, we help it grow. So one of the things I have tried to work on, and I'm still working on, is to, despite having that voice, keep on doing the things I want to do and taking risks. And one example of this, of battling with this voice, was when I was actually studying for the TOEFL because I wanted to get higher than 100. And I reached a point where, in most of my practices, I was right below that score. And I felt stuck. And I was thinking, like, uh, this is it. I cannot get any higher. I will be competing against other international students with way better scores, so I will be rejected. You know, that cycle that goes with a lot of negative thoughts and everything. So right there, I decided to take a break, stop, and try to control my irrational and negative thoughts. Because, and I tried to argue with them, with the reality that I was actually capable of improving, but I was probably doing it the wrong way. And most importantly, that a score or an acceptance rejection from any university don't define anyone's value. Um, I then decided to approach the TOEFL studying in a different way, focusing more on the analysis of my practices, and then rather than more practice. So circling it back to confidence, for me, it's like a lifelong journey of working in my inner beliefs and thoughts. The more I do it, the more confident I feel, and it's also important to just keep on trying.
I think that's such a important mindset to have. And I mean, life is all about continuing to grow and continuing to be open to growth. And I think it's a great skill that you really have that you're open to that. So before we move on to the next question, I did want to mention that we will be having a Q&A at the end of this conversation. So if you have any questions for Jennifer, or if you will have any questions that you want the TOEFL moderators in the chat to answer, feel free to put them in the chat and we will get to answering those as soon as possible. Um, so the next couple questions will be focusing on what you mentioned a little while ago, which is English. And so in what ways did you practice English to get it to the level it's at today?
So first, I tried to make the most out of my high school resources. About 50% of my classes were taught in English, so I had the opportunity to practice more in class and with my friends. So I think that is like something that if you had, or if you don't have, you can also like try to go to online resources. Duolingo, the app, it's great because you can practice while it's still fun, and it's not like you will get a score out of it, so you can do it in your free time. Also, during the college prep classes that I mentioned, I tried to participate and speak as much as possible to improve my pronunciation, plus the excessive writing you have to do for admission essays. Um, you can get a lot of practice out of that.
Yeah. So in comparing your preparation for an experience with the TOEFL test to your interactions during your college prep class in the US, would you say that TOEFL was an accurate representation of English in the US? And do you think it prepared you for the classroom?
I believe it is an accurate representation of the English needed to study abroad because broadly the four sections are mostly academia related and used to demonstrate how good we are at understanding college material and expressing and arguing for our opinions. So I believe this test is truly useful to be confident in your English for college and to be able to spot what are your weak and your strong areas, and then you can know how you should work towards being more fluent in English. However, I think English in daily life, as far as I experience, is a bit less formal and more natural.
Okay. So as a bioengineering major, what really drew you to your major, and what challenges are you expecting to face once you start classes at UCLA?
When I started biology in high school, I was super captivated by learning about like tiny organisms that have a tremendous influence over an entire system of organs. So it was a subject that I was happy spending my free time to learn more about it outside of the class. But before I discovered biology, I was really into programming and technology. This especially because my father is a programmer and he got me into that world, and that is super interesting. So I also enjoy it, and I decided to follow an interdisciplinary major that combines these both things that I really like. And I know engineering at UCLA will probably be challenging, but I'm trying to focus on the good things and the positive things about it, like the opportunities to grow and to meet new people, and like all of these professional and personal opportunities I will have at UCLA.
And I really love your story about finding this love for your bioengineering major. You had this interest, but also something from your childhood, and you really blended both of them together, and it's like the perfect fit for you. And I think in the US, that's something that's very unique in that you can make your education what you want to make it. Um, and so this next question kind of goes away from that for a second, but one of the more unique aspects of life in the US is that even random strangers will come speak to you. So, what was it like experiencing that for the first time?
I actually experienced this twice, and at first I feel a little bit resistant because in my home country this is not common at all. Like people on the street, I like very much on their own world. But I ended up liking the fact that there's a lot of opportunities to meet new people, and there's a lot of kind and friendly people. And it can be as simple as just saying hi to someone to like get to know and have a friendship.
Yeah. So before we go on to the next question, I just wanted to remind everyone to stay tuned until the end of the session, as we will be providing you with a promo code for the TOEFL test registration fee. So Jennifer, how have your studies, including taking the TOEFL test, prepared you for your move to the US?
My high school was strong in English, so that was helpful in preparing me for the language. And during the college prep program, I learned more about the U.S. college system, the expectations, like what was I required to do in order to apply, like how to create a college list. And with the TOEFL, I could spot my weak and my strong areas, and then I was practicing more on those.
Yeah. So what gave you the confidence to really speak English without fear of judgment?
Actually, before eighth grade, I studied at a Spanish speaking school, and when I moved to an only English speaking school, my classmates started making fun of me. When I tried to participate in class, and I tried to sing my favorite Selena Gomez songs. But since I was used to being a good student, during that summer, I decided I was going to take an online English course, and I go really deep into it. I was doing like 2 hours daily because it was fun. First of all, I feel more confident when it was online because I didn't feel like I was having someone to judge me around. The next year, I was at the same level of my classmates. So I will say, don't let the judgment stop you or limit you, but instead try to use it as a fuel. And I know sometimes it is hard to follow, but if you let it actually become true, then you are limiting yourself to things that are not true because we all can improve. And also a tip for learning English, I will say, is speak and speak a lot. That's how babies learn, and that's what I think is the best way to improve faster. So find a way to practice your speaking as much as you can.
I mean, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but speaking to you now, like your English is so fluent and like it's so easy to understand. So I guess that really just is a testament to how hard you work to get to this point. Um, and so, what tips do you have for others that are earlier on in your English, in their English language journeys?
The one I just mentioned, I think, is really important because speaking is the faster way to improve because once you start practicing it, all the vocabulary you've been learning like in school, you will apply it when you're speaking, because doing like the school exercises of grammar and everything is something really useful, but it is a whole. If you don't combine it with like listening, speaking, writing, you will be like going up in certain areas, but this area that is still low will kind of hold you back. So try to keep your practice in all the areas of English, like writing, speaking, listening, reading. And something really useful for this is also like watching series. If you like a series, try to, and if it's hard for you to get the series at the first time, maybe you can watch it in your native language and then try to watch it in English. And that's what I did with the 100. The 7 seasons are awesome, and I watched it in Spanish and in English. So that was also something that make English fun, because English doesn't have to be something like boring.
Yeah,
You can make it fun to be easier to learn.
that's great advice. And speaking of making English fun, I know you enjoy reading historical fiction. So, what's one of the more inspiring historical fiction books that you've read, and how has it influenced you?
I will say The Boy at the Top of the Mountain by John Boyne. It's about World War II and a boy's innocence in the face of evil. And what I mean with this is like this is a boy that was the son of one of the servants at Hitler's house at the top of the mountain. At first, he was a really sweet and kind boy who, with time and the interaction of a lot of negative and dangerous ideologies, becomes cold, discriminating, and cruel. In the end, he realizes this and he repents, but he tells his story and he realizes that the damage he did was irreversible. And this book moved me a lot because it hurts to read how this sweetness and innocence turn into evil and coldness because of a bad influence and a bad example. And this basically goes to show like how a child is so influenced by their environment. And this is why my giant dream of a support center for children has to do with, and like we'll try to fight.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a powerful story, and I guess for everyone who missed it the first time, can you mention the name of it one last time?
Sure, is The Boy at the Top of the Mountain by John Byrne.
Thank you. So what resources have you found to be the most helpful in building your English language proficiency and confidence?
The virtual course I used to start learning English. It's called EF English Live, and it's really useful. Like any virtual course that you can find, will help you if you have like the fear of judgment or you don't feel comfortable practicing it. Since it's online and with people from all over the world, the fear of judgment, as I say, is minimum, and you can kind of feel free to try and practice and make mistakes. Also, reading and watching series, as I said, is pretty useful for improving your, especially your vocabulary and your pronunciation, because you can kind of like get used to like the more the more daily life English. Also, I remember that when I was little, and I didn't have a lot of like English classes, I used to believe that English was like that hard and boring subject, but it doesn't have to even be like a subject. Uh, it's only like a different way to connect with different cultures, people, a different way to understand the world. And that is really beautiful to see like under a different light. Like it's not just like to get a good score, it can open you a lot of opportunities. And honestly, if I wouldn't have had the challenge to learn English, I wouldn't be studying abroad. Like it wouldn't have been a possibility. So I will say try to make it fun. English can be fun in many different ways. Maybe you can find a friend over a social media platform and you can start speaking in English. Also, the free TOEFL resources at their official page are something really good to use because they are quality material. And what I mean with this is like they are official material, so it's the best way to practice, because that way you are not doing exercises that will not be on the test, so you are practicing with the things that you will be facing once we are on the test.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned early on there is very important in that, I mean, when you embark on really any journey to learn something new, I mean, find a way to make it fun, and that way it won't feel like such a chore and you can enjoy it more. Um, and so you mentioned earlier that TOEFL provided you with study resources. And so what were some of the resources you were able to use from them, and would you say that they were helpful?
Yes. So I believe like the best way to study for any test is with quality material. And what I mean with this is like trying to use the official practice that you have for that, and this is the TOEFL resources that you have in the official website. So I use the TOEFL practice exams and the TOEFL practice questions. I first try to understand all of the structure, like the type of questions you have, the time you will have for each section, the grading scale that the test uses. Also, I try to then like practice with these resources, and although the material for the questions was useful, I feel sometimes the solution explanation could be like expanded. So I also combined it with a course called Emergency Course for the TOEFL, where I learned like the best ways to tackle different types of questions, writing templates. And here I would like to make a point because a lot of people don't really like writing templates, but I will say it is really helpful, at least for me it was, because it can save you time. To think about the sentences to support your opinions instead of thinking too much about the sentences that are the filler sentences that are just to connect each of your ideas. So having a template that it's your own, like you can personalize your template, it's something really useful. And I was also able to practice the exercises and strategies for speaking and writing sections, like choosing a side where you have the most arguments for, instead of being like this is correct, but this is too, because then you will have a harder time speaking or writing.
Yeah. So do you have any useful sites that you would recommend to help prepare for the TOEFL test? And I mean, maybe even this study abroad journey in general.
One that I really, really love and would recommend to anyone who wants to study abroad is the College Essay Guide website. This website has a lot of resources, especially for writing your essays. Like you will have for mostly any university that you want to apply, they have like the questions that you have to write an essay for, and sample of essays for that, and then a breakdown of which steps you can take to write the essays. Or also there are courses to like write a personal statement, exercises like values exercise, so that you can get to know uh, better yourself. And this is something really beautiful, I think, about the US application process, because it's not like you just have to like send your scores and that's it. You kind of like have to reflect on your own self to write good personal statements that can show how you are as a person. And if you really put into the work to do that, you will get to know yourself better. And I think that is something really good. And also for the TOEFL and in general for studying abroad, I think studying in the USA, like the website has a lot of resources that you can also have a lot of testimonies from students. You can have like creating your college list by searching the universities that you're interested there, finding a lot of good information. So it's a good place to find resources too.
Yeah. And so kind of going back to much earlier in our conversation, you had mentioned that you took a gap year. And so during your gap year, you spent the first 6 months in a college prep program and the last six back in Ecuador. So since returning to Ecuador, what have you done to keep your English skills fresh and to keep them from regressing?
I try keeping my English active mainly by writing. I've been working a lot on scholarship essays, and also I participated in a coding bootcamp called Code with Clossy. It was also a good experience. So I think like any opportunity you have to like learn and be involved in an English environment is good. And it doesn't even have to be like a paid one. Code with Clossy is free for women interested in learning to code, or to one or who want to span like their coding abilities, so you can get immersed in a new topic that you like and also practice your English. So that is something really cool. I also try to enroll in like edX courses, studying English, and right now I'm taking UCLA summer virtual classes so that I can get some requisites out of the way. So in general, I think it's important to keep practicing, because although you may not forget everything you learn, the skills will get oxidated.
Yeah, I think that it is really cool that you're continuing to learn and continuing to put yourself in situations where you can always keep growing. And so I think that is a very good skill to have. So now that we're almost on our last question, planned question at least, um, I just wanted to mention to everyone who's still watching that if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we will get to those in a moment. So Jennifer, the last question for you is, if you were to give one piece or maybe even a couple of pieces of advice to students who are making the decision to pursue an education in the US, what would they be?
Plan ahead. It's a process that requires a lot of time and strategy and money. So you want to start creating like your college list, researching the requirements, the admissions process, tuition, the financial aid available at each of your options, like to get as much information as you can so that you can get an informed decision, like you can make an informed decision, because it's not worth it to like apply to a lot of schools and then realize you will not be able to go because of maybe financial resources, or it's too far away from what your parents will allow it to for you to go. So basically, I don't know, you will have to like do your research as deep as you can in order to take a good decision. And then you can also like start taking action on the exams you have to take, the portfolio. With this I mean like your extracurricular essays. Is there anything you would like to strengthen in your application, your like everything you will need for applying. But also, if you are not really with a lot of time, don't stress out. I was in the exact same situation and I decided to take a gap year, so I had a lot of time. But it was helpful. It was helpful for me to like grow on my English skills, to also have time for my own growth. And we are not in a race or anything, so take your time to discover what you want. That is the most important thing, and enjoy the process. That's it.
Okay. I mean, I really love that answer. And so with that, I guess we are done with the planned questions. And so now we'll get to some of the questions that you've all been wanting to know. So the first of them is, are there any tools that you can recommend to prepare for the TOEFL IBT and to get a high score?
Sure. So first, I will say like this is not a tool, but I think it's really, really, really important, and it's understand the exam, the TOEFL exam, as much as you can. Like learn about the type of questions, learn about the timing, which questions take you more time to solve, like all of those things. And once you practice, like each time you make a practice exam or a practice section, try to analyze your your performance, because it is not a lot of, and it is not useful to like do a lot of practice and then still have the same grade. And that was what happened to me. I think sometimes we reach a point and we're like we want to get higher, like, but there are a few points that are still making us stay on the same grade. So try to analyze your practice, like which type of questions am I still making the same mistakes, and then try to work on those specific questions to get your score higher. So make more analyzed practices rather than a lot of practice. And about a tool, I will say use mainly the TOEFL official resources. Also, find good writing templates and then personalize them. A course that I used was called the Emergency TOEFL course, and it was useful in giving like all the information summarized in one place and a lot of practice. So that was good too.
I think all the advice you gave is really great. I mean, learn with intention. Like if you're planning on taking the TOEFL test, TOEFL has resources for it, and um, I mean, really focus on what you're doing, and once you look inside yourself, you can figure out how to improve from that. Um, so, for some people who haven't been here the entire session, can you share a little bit about your experience taking the TOEFL, and what's your best tip for taking the test itself?
Okay, so I took it twice. I took it in San Francisco in November, and it was. I mean, I was nervous, but the experience was really good. It is really organized. Like you have in the website like all the instructions of how to go, so that is helpful in going less stressed. So like read that you what are you allowed to take, if you can, like, because you have time like to take a break, to eat something, so that is something good. So know what you are allowed to do in order for you to feel calmer that day, because I know I was like really nervous about uh, what can I do, can I take this, can I not take this. So it's really straightforward. You have like your locker there, so you can take something with you to eat. I was also studying until the last minute. I don't recommend this. Like you can like try to relax during the last minutes. You have already studied, so go there, keep it calm, and do your best.
Yeah. And so, kind of moving away from that for a second, what are you looking forward to the most about studying abroad?
All the opportunities to meet new people and to grow is the first, kind of second time I will be living alone on my own. But this is different because it will be like for 4 years. I will be visiting my home country, but it will be certainly be a different experience. So I want to. I am the thing that excites me the most is seeing how I grow throughout those 4 years, like all the opportunities that are available there. So you have like the options are there. It's just for me to like get the habits, get those things done. Yeah.
I mean, I think it will be a great experience and I mean, truly a once in a lifetime kind of 4 years that you'll be experiencing. So I really hope that you're able to enjoy it. So the next two questions are kind of similar, so I'll try grouping them together here. But could you repeat the website that you had mentioned earlier as a TOEFL or English learning resource? And also, are there any exam prep sites that are friendly for bilingual speakers?
Okay, so for the TOEFL, it's called tstprep.com, and this website has it's also a YouTube channel, and it has a lot of useful resources for the TOEFL. And I will say, in general, for bilingual students, the process will not be much different. I think you will like still need to do a lot of, not a lot of practice, good practice, but still uh, trying to do it like as much as you can, but analyzing them. And what was the other question?
Um, are there any exam prep sites that are friendly for bilingual speakers?
Okay, so I will still recommend TST Prep. It's really useful. It has like also a lot of options if you want to like buy a course or anything. It has multiple different options for courses.
Thank you for that. And so, Jennifer, what is your mother language and how long did it take you to learn English?
Spanish, and it took me honestly. I know this will sound weird, but I improved a lot my English in 2 months, and it was because I felt like, as I said, I came from a different school that was only in Spanish, and then I moved to an English-speaking school, and I felt like kind of bad because I was falling behind my classmates, and they were making fun of me. So during the like vacation, I took this virtual course, and I was really into it. Like I was doing 2 hours of like practice, then they have like uh, group sessions for like talking, and then you have also private classes, like virtual private classes. So I was doing like a lot of that, and it was fun. So I realized like I was enjoying learning English, which was something that has never happened to me before that. So that helps a lot. Enjoy, like if you find a way to enjoy what you're learning, it will be much more faster.
Yeah. And so, um, for those who are still with us here, I just wanted to mention that there is a promo code that you can use, which we have placed in the comment section. So definitely make use of that. And so, Jennifer, I just have a few more questions for you here. So the first is that do you think that it is important to participate in like student clubs, organizations, just things outside of your education itself?
Really, really important, especially if you're like trying to apply to the US. Like here, for example, here in Ecuador, just in comparison, the application process is pretty much straightforward with grades and exams. So your outside extracurricular activities are not really taken into consideration. But if you want to study in the US, you will have to submit like your extracurricular activities, like what you do outside of the classroom. So trying to not to do it for like in order to get accepted into any university, but also as a way like to enhance your interest, your education. It will definitely help you.
Yeah, and so one final question. What do you think makes the US a unique and ideal destination compared to other educational systems around the world?
I will say it's quality of education, and I don't want to like maybe infer that other countries are not good, but I mean that the U.S. has like a really high uh, level of like investment in research, investment in like producing like a lot of good universities. Like, and if it is generally the top at most college rankings globally. So I think having a lot of prestigious universities really draws a lot of international students there, and I think this is mainly due to the fact that these colleges have a lot of opportunities that you may not have at your home country, like maybe having professors that are the best at their uh, the other professions, so you can have that connections, and that is something really good.
Yeah, and so we've put the promo code that you can use for your TOEFL test registration fee on the screen. And so with that being said, I just wanted to thank you once again, Jennifer, for joining us. It was amazing hearing your story and everything that you had to offer. And I mean, when you start UCLA, not too long from now, I hope for the best for you, and I hope that you're able to enjoy these next 4 years. Also, I did want to mention and say thank you to TOEFL for partnering with us to make these sessions like this possible. So once again, thank you for everyone for joining, and we hope you have a wonderful day. See you.
Thank you. Also, thank you.